There are some simple things to keep in mind. One, and I think this is obvious to anyone who's done a few of these, the subject matter does not matter, right? So if the original argument is about cows, the correct answer can be about astronauts. We don't care about that. The second thing that never matters is the order that that the parts of the argument appear. So if you're, and can be very tempting, you want to compare the first sentence in the original argument to the first sentence in the answer that you're looking at. But that doesn't matter at all. What you need to compare are the premises in the argument in the original to the premises in the answer choice, and they could have moved around, right? It's very common for them to put the conclusion first in the answer choices and the conclusion last in the original or in the middle. And so you just have to make sure you're comparing apples to apples, not apples to oranges, even if you're comparing the same location. Some things that generally tend to be logically significant and that you need to take note of would be necessary or conditions that create sufficient or necessary conditions, which would include if-then statements, right? If-then statements are a core kind of reasoning. And so if I see an if-then statement in the original argument, I would expect the correct answer to also have some form of if-then statement. It may not be stated in if-then form, but you need something that's equivalent to that. So for example, if I say to you, all sedans are red, that's the same as saying, if you're a sedan, then you're red, right? So a sentence doesn't necessarily have to literally use the words if and then, but it has to have the same impact. Now, one thing that people will do is that terms like some and most can be logically significant, and therefore in some cases they may look at answer choices and say, oh, well, this answer choice says some and the original argument says some, therefore, maybe these things are parallel. The only problem, and it's kind of a big problem, is that people become hyper-focused on those terms and kind of miss the forest from the trees, right? Like, in some cases, whether the argument said some or most may actually not be that big of a deal to the overall conclusion, because the conclusion isn't really about quantities. And so getting hung up on the fact that the answer you're looking at doesn't use the same quantifier as the original can deter you from choosing the right answer. So you really need to focus first on understanding the argument, 2, deciding whether you think it's good or bad, and then working from that basis first. And then if you get down to 2 answer choices, then we might need to look a little more closely. We might be like, oh wait, actually this conclusion, this one is a lot stronger than the original, and this one is using that same level of strength. Therefore, given the fact that fundamentally they're both the same, I'm going to go with this answer choice because it's more parallel. It's the most parallel answer.